While Susan Thorne headed toward her office building, she happened to drive by a construction site by a water utility along the Pollen River. Thorne pulled over and took a closer look at the site. Something did not seem right to her, so she drove up to the construction trailer and got out of her truck. Thorne talks with the crew's foreman, a senior member of the construction crew, who knows that they're gonna do something related to absorb shocks and prevent flying rocks and debris during underground blasting. Thorne was a 25-year-old mechanical engineer with a passion for science and technology. She had a solid understanding of the risks associated with utility installations, particularly on residential streets. In her position as assistant engineer for the Nelson region, Thorne was responsible for advising on gas line construction and maintenance and forming teams that supported the preparation of engineering drawings and designs. She was well aware of the importance of collaboration with other utilities when planning the underground installation of gas lines in order to help manage safety risks. Typically, the collaborating teams would alert each other of any intention to dig for a construction project and follow up with corresponding utility markings on the roads or grounds in question. The markings were red for electrical power lines, yellow for gas, and blue for water. Thorne was unaware of any request related to the construction site by the water utility. In fact, she was unaware of any recent communication for work in this neighborhood that fell within her assigned region. The foreman informed her that his construction company was planning to blast for a water utility installation in the notoriously rocky area. He noted that using a traditional backhoe or trench was not an option in this case. As the remaining construction crew members joined the conversation, Thorne explained that the site was far too close to the gas pipeline. She then asked in her professional capacity for them to stop the project because they could not proceed with the proposed blasting. She cited the potential risk to public safety as her reason to temporarily shut down the project pending further investigation. Her decision was greeted with resistance from the construction crew members, who stared at her with bewilderment before strongly objecting to her reasoning. The small group of 3 male crew members, who seemed approximately 50 to 60 years of age, soon resorted to verbal accusations. They strongly challenged Thorne's assessment of the situation and competence as a young female engineer. Despite mounting pressure from the crew, Thorne affirmed her position and repeated her instruction to cease the proposed blasting until further notice. She stood firm in her belief regarding the risk she had identified. She resisted the temptation to give in to the men's intimidating accusations and body language. Her accountability to her iron ring was integrated into her decision-making. She leaned on her training and knowledge for the confidence she required in making such a judgment call and tried to avoid a shouting match in public. Although visibly dissatisfied, the crew members reluctantly agreed to hold off blasting pending further investigation. Thorne got back in her truck and drove to her office. She assumed the crew would call her company to file a complaint about her decision, which they did. The construction crew questioned her authority and expressed concerns about the impact of delays on the project. Thorne had anticipated the resulting consequences of her actions, but she remained confident in her decision. After replaying the details of the confrontation in her mind, Thorne still maintained that her position was anchored on the safety risks she had identified and was based on her university training and 2 years on the job. As an engineer, Thorne took her responsibility for public safety seriously and acknowledged that there were no gray areas between right and wrong regarding such decisions. She knew she was obligated by professional practice guidelines to make sound decisions with respect to the issue of safety. She reflected on the fact that she had no choice other than to act promptly, albeit autonomously, and rise above the dissension of the construction crew or risk putting innocent people's lives at risk. Thorne realized that her decision could have monetary consequences, with a potential cost in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to both the utility company and the contractors. This cost included the economic loss related to delays of other projects scheduled to start immediately after completion of this work. Those costs could increase significantly if a replacement of the gas line in question was deemed necessary. However, in this situation, time was clearly limited. There was no time for doubt or hesitation to weigh the pros and cons of her decisions because people's lives could be at risk. In addition, her own personal and professional reputation was at risk. The incident had propelled her into the rapid application of limited theory, coupled with a need for sound judgment and instinct. Thorne was responsible for safety on field projects. Therefore, upon her arrival at the office, she promptly dispatched an X-ray crew to conduct a review of the quality of the butt welds on the gas lines located near the construction site to assess their compliance with safety standards. She wanted to validate her actions by taking a fact-based decision-making approach. Therefore, she asked for an investigation of the status of the V-notches using X-ray technology to assess any potential flaws incurred from age and the ability of the butt welds to withstand an impact. Her aim was to assess if the pipe welds met all appropriate standards and were solid penetrating welds. Weak non-penetrating welds could be prone to leaks, especially after the transmission of force from an underground blast. Leaks could follow rock and end up in unintended places, such as residential basements, in this instance. After ordering an investigation, Thorne sought the counsel of a senior colleague, the construction and maintenance manager. Her colleague, a man in his 60s, was responsible for field crews. In fact, he was responsible for the crew who had laid down the pipe on the street in question 16 years earlier. The construction and maintenance manager supported Thorne's decision. However, a subsequent discussion with the senior technical team in the division was pending. That meeting would also likely include a complaint from the construction crew, who had openly and aggressively challenged her decision to shut down the project against their wishes. Thorne wondered whether, in hindsight, she should have done anything differently. Q1. What's the problem? What has been observed? How significant? A1. Thorne was a 25-year-old mechanical engineer with a solid understanding of the risks associated with utility installations, particularly on residential streets, when she happened to drive by a construction site by a water utility along the Pollen River. She pulled over and asked the construction team to stop their blast project for reasons of public safety. The employees, all men older than her, used her age and gender to challenge her authority and decision. Thanks to her confidence in herself and her abilities, she held her ground and the employees resigned themselves to accepting Thorne's decision. Q2. What were the root causes that led to the problem? Central cause. The construction site was far too close to the gas pipeline. The proposed blasting could pose a potential risk to public safety. Other causes. Experience. Thorne was a 25-year-old young woman with just 2 years of working experience, whereas construction staff were big men who seemed approximately 50 to 60 years of age. Communication. No alert of any intention to dig for a construction project from collaborating teams as usual. Construction staff strongly objected to her reasoning with intimidating accusations and body language. Q3. What did Thorne and the construction crew decide to do after? Construction employees called her company to file a complaint about her decision, questioned her authority and expressed concerns about the impact of delays on the project. Thorne remained confident in her decision and maintained her position on the safety risks as well as appropriate due diligence as a professional engineer. Promptly dispatched an X-ray crew to conduct a review of the quality of the butt welds on the gas lines located near the construction site to assess their compliance with safety standards. Asked for an investigation of the status of the V-notches, using X-ray technology to assess any potential flaws incurred from age, and the ability of the butt welds to withstand an impact. Sought the counsel of a senior colleague, the construction and maintenance manager. A 60-year-old man was responsible for field crews who had laid down the pipe on the street in question 16 years earlier. Planned to arrange a discussion with the senior technical team to handle a complaint from the construction crew. Q4. What would be affected if her decision was wrong? For the project, delayed completion time and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to both the utility company and the contractors for this project as well as others. For Thorne, a potentially career-limiting move, being labeled as a risk-averse leader and then quickly spread within the company and the industry. The loss of her job. Risks of damaging personal and professional reputation due to incorrect judgment and instinct. Q5. What are recommendations or alternatives for her construction implementation? Reasons, suggested justifications that led the construction crew to plan a blast operation for water utility installation in the notoriously rocky area. Consultation. Seek additional support and consult with experienced individuals, teams to evaluate the pros and cons of using the current blasting method versus other approaches. Communication. Keep calm, show respect, and not yell at others. Avoid jumping to conclusions without listening to others' explanation. Arrange a meeting with seasoned professionals to exchange ideas. Rational persuasion. Give reasonable points based on academic knowledge and real practice. Present alternative ways to complete the construction without affecting residents as well as costing too much.